All right, ladies and gentlemen, my name is William Warncke. Welcome to our Swamp Directors Roundtable. It is not going to be as good as the official roundtable because we are not as good as those directors yet. In the future, we will exceed them. But I'm joined here with a bunch of my fellow Swamp members, Nathaniel, Charlie, Brek, and Matt, who have all directed short films within our club in the last semester or two. Some of them have been worked on for longer, I believe. No, they haven't. It's only been one semester. But yeah, I'm William. I was the president of Swamp Club, and I'm here to kind of kind of host this shindig. So let's just get into it. So first, introduce yourselves a little bit and talk about, I guess, your film that you're working on right now. I guess we can start in alphabetical order. Brek, would you like to go first?
So I take it that we're going to be talking about the short film we did in the spring. So
yes,
Nictophile, which is one I made back in the spring. Started around, I think, spring break. Finished it off around May to submit for InSWAMPnia, and I think it got received very well. So yeah,
it did indeed. Do you want to talk about that? You're now the president.
I am officially the president of Aggie SWAMP, and I'm excited. We got a lot of stuff planned for that for the next coming semester, so that's gonna be real fun.
Nice. Charlie.
Yeah, my name is Charlie Haynes. I was the marketing chair last year for Swamp, for my one and only semester in the organization. And I directed a short film called Ken, and it was a really short film. I think it was like 8 minutes long or 10 or whatever. And it was a fun little horror short film. Horror, I don't know. Thriller, maybe. It was fun.
There you go. And then what? LMNOP, Matt.
What's up, everybody? My name is Matt Banzer. I graduated A&M about a year ago, but back in the day, I was treasurer for Swamp for around 2 years. And I made a film this year called Bag Back, which is still in the post-production phase, but it's sort of a comedy, basically a thriller / comedy, whatever you want to call it. And it uses a lot of the same people from Swamp. In fact, a lot of the same people in this chat I want to say everybody in this chat right now has been involved with it in at least some way. So it's almost finished, actually. I was just realizing today, like, it's probably going to be finished within the next week or so. And it's going to look around like 35 minutes, and I'm really excited for it. I think it's going to be, well, I know it's going to be really good.
Nice. Moving on to Nathaniel.
Hello, I'm Nathaniel Van Sost. I directed a short film called Bonnie. In Swamp, I was vice president and script chair. So script chair, I actually helped out on, I think, both Ken and Bag Back. And then I appear in one scene in Nictophile, so I sort of had a hand in everything in the chat as well. Bonnie is a drama romance film, and it's currently going through post-production. It's shot half in black and white and half in stills in color, so there is a lot of work to be done with that, culling everything we can from 36,000 images to go through. And so it's about to wrap up probably the next couple of weeks. It's going through sound and color grading right now, and then going off to soundtrack. So there's a lot still to be done, but it's going good.
Nice. So these are all of our directors of all the short films that were made last semester, the spring of 2022, for people who may be watching this a long time in the future, which we hope you are. So basically, this is based on the Directors Roundtable, the official one. There's a lot of big-time directors there that have made a name for themselves, like Martin Scorsese, blah, 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 blah. Wow, that just made me sound like I only care about Martin Scorsese, but I don't. Talking about big names, I'm just curious what all of y'all's inspirations are. Who are y'all's inspirations for directors? Or just filmmakers, or just anybody in general? It doesn't even have to be filmmakers, it could be artists, and in any regard. So, I mean, whoever wants to talk. I feel like this can just be an open discussion. We don't have to really go one by one if we don't want to, but if anyone wants to chime in first.
So personally, I think a couple of the biggest filmmakers that inspired me for Nyctophile in particular, one of which was Sam Raimi. I think a month before making Nyctophile, I watched the entire Evil Dead trilogy, and some of the very almost guerrilla yet very polished editing in those films were so well done. And I was inspired to do some of the editing choices and camera choices I did in Nyctophile was inspired by that for sure. I can't say there's too much of a blend of various filmmakers for me to hone in on one. I think Sam Raimi is the biggest one in particular, but a lot of it was just a lot of the Nyctophile pieces of that film was just stuff that I had in my mind for a while that I've always wanted to do editing wise and actually filming it and able to put that together into one cohesive film was the best. So guess that's kind of my answer.
Yeah, I mean, I would have to agree. One of the first ones that I thought of for just inspirations in general, not necessarily for Ken, but if Ken had a bigger budget, absolutely I'd want to do some Sam Raimi-esque shit. But definitely agree with that, Sam Raimi. I think also as I dive deeper into filmmaking, I would like to draw inspiration from David Fincher and Mike Flanagan. I think also I find Edgar Wright's style of filmmaking really fun. And even though he's only made 2 films or directed 2 films, Drew Goddard, he did Cabin in the Woods and then also Bad Times at the El Royale. 2 films that I think are just really fun, but also spooky in a way. It's that's the kind of stuff that I'm into, So those guys probably.
I did not know he directed Bad Times at the El Royale. I have to check that out now because it's
Oh,
been on my
it's
list
so
for a
fun.
while.
It's really fun.
All right, awesome. I'll watch it. But my biggest influences, I've always loved the Wachowski directors. I've loved their work, pretty much all of their movies, honestly, because everyone just says, "Oh, just The Matrix," and then kind of that's it. I love pretty much everything they've done. Just mainly the way they utilize a frame and the way they use shadows and the way they've really mastered tone, whether it's really over the top and goofy, or you can have these sort of fantastical elements, but having them be very grounded and still being able to take them seriously, I think is such a unique way of doing that. And just the idea that they just kind of make stuff for them and they break the rules a lot and they do stuff that most people say you're not supposed to do in live action or just in movies in general. I really appreciate that. And then to go off what Charlie was saying, same thing with Edgar Wright, where it just really feels like I remember specifically the first time I watched Scott Pilgrim when I was 12, 13, whenever that movie came out. I just remember thinking, wow, you can put literally anything in a movie that you want. You want to have people just flying and fighting with swords while they're just having a conversation about relationships. You can do that. If you want to have a pee bar when you're going to the bathroom, you can do that. You can have fun. And then for Bag Back, I would say the biggest inspirations are obviously Edgar Wright in terms of the frenetic editing style and just sort of the many movements with the camera he does. That's another thing I want to bring up with the Wachowskis is they both think they know how to utilize movement in the frame without being too flashy with it. It just feels very natural and it affects your subconscious in a way you don't really realize until you go back and analyze the scene. But also with Bag Back, the Safdie brothers, I really love the way that they shoot and how they use non-actors and the way that they just make everything very intense and it just feels like a thrill ride whenever you're watching it while still being very character driven and not style over substance. And then while I was writing the script for Bag Back, I kept listening to a lot of industrial and trip hop music, and I really feel like that helped kind of set the tone for the short and this kind of dark world while also having some, urgency to it and intensity to it.
Nice. Yeah, I think everyone sort of here has touched on it, the idea that they likes people that sort of show outside the box or take the story in directions or don't really appreciate the rules in a way. I'm very much in that same box, but with Bonnie being what it is, still images and sort of a Bonnie and Clyde story. I take that, for me, it's a lot more of a formal breaking. I think narrative is pretty similar for most things, so I care a lot about the formal and the sort of fine-tuning elements. A lot of us touched on editing. So obviously it's shot in stills, so you can point back to Chris Marker's La Jetée as probably the film that kick-started this idea in my head. I was watching a lot of French New Wave around this time, so La Jetée and Godard were sort of the things I was watching whenever this idea first hit me a couple of years ago. Gone under a lot of changes since then, but I still say Chris Marker and Godard have sort of stuck around in my head as like what they do, especially Godard during his radical period, whenever he's a lot more intense about things and he doesn't really care. Not only that narrative doesn't matter, but cuts don't matter. What you expect from a movie, linearity, all that sort of stuff, challenging what the form is, something that I really came into Bonnie looking at. Like, how can I make something that's different, that's sort of interesting? Not, just rip off their style, because obviously Chris Marker was the one that did the photographic films first. So making sure that it stays true to that, the inspiration, but then has a new element. So I ended up using a very different technique by sort of stringing together things into motion. Outside of like influences on Bonnie, there was like a couple others, like a scene in I can't never can say the director's last name, but he's an experimental filmmaker. He made Outer Space, and then Exquisite Corpus was a film that there's a scene. I can't recommend that anyone really goes watch this film. It's a great movie, but it's a little bit out there. But there's a great scene where there's a seagulls yelling and all this sort of stuff, and it's just one of the most horrifying things I've seen, and I really love the editing of his shorts. So I sort of took some inspiration from that, of like layering things and making sure that it doesn't have to make sense, just make it discontinuous and make the emotions real. So those were like the inspiration sort of going into that, into the film, and obviously a lot of the other Bonnie and Clyde films out there, from Natural Born Killers to Bonnie and Clyde. I sort of watched them all so that I could try to find a new way into the narrative. Personally, overall, I would say big influences are, like, it's going to sound super basic and super pretentious, but Tarkovsky, I very much appreciate Bela Tarr, the work of Scott Barley. He's currently my favorite filmmaker. So a lot of slow cinema is mainly where I draw inspiration from. I don't know why that is, because the film I made isn't really that way. But that's generally where I draw a lot of inspiration from. I appreciate the play with what cinema is, which is just time, and I appreciate playing with the time a lot more directly, because I feel like that's underutilized.
Dang, no mention of Kurosawa. I'm surprised.
I mean, Kurosawa is big, but right now.
Do you think Godard would be a fan of the MCU today?
What do you feel like? It's a roller coaster, just all.
I can't believe I missed. I was like, as we were going through everyone, I totally forgot to mention the Coen brothers, and specifically like their first feature film, which is Blood Simple, which is like, I feel like a major influence for me, like shot wise and Ken, but which is funny because they were influenced obviously by Sam Raimi. I one of the, either Joel or Ethan worked directly on The Evil Dead. I can't remember which one it was, but I couldn't not mention that because that was like probably number one. I don't know how I forgot them.
I think we all forgot people probably. Like, I just got Kurosawa called out. Like Kurosawa, Kubrick, all those, the ones that everyone sort of has. That...
Well, I just remember because we made that podcast like a year ago. We were talking about our favorite like films and directors. I remember you distinctly talked about like Ikaru and like Kurosawa. So I just thought it was funny.
Yeah.
Before we move on,
I'm sorry. I mean, we could all go on and on, but I feel like we all kind of needed to limit it because we could talk about this. Like,
no, definitely. Yeah, I mean, like filmmaking is one of those things where it's like there's a lot of people who are very talented and that you could look to for inspiration. Before we go on, I just want to address Bonnie, just because if people don't necessarily like listening to this and they don't know like what you're talking about, you've kind of given them a little nuggets. But do you just want to like explain it more, because it's not traditional in the sense of like all of our other films in a way? that are kind of like, you know, what you'd expect, I guess, from a short film, not necessarily in like narrative and things like that, but like in like its actual production. If you want to talk a little bit more about it.
Yeah, I can. I'm sorry for being mysterious. Yeah. So
Don't
the
be.
idea, I know, the idea was based off of Chris Marker's La Jetée, which is a film comprised of still images. I saw that and I said, why has no one else done that ever again? I watched Pro Le Fou, which was one of my favorite Godard films for a long time, at around the same time, and I said, what if you combine these two? And then I saw Badlands, like, what if you combine Badlands in there? And so I'd been working on it for a while. I'd rated a couple different versions from different perspectives. Ultimately, it is still images for the most part. There's a present, which is shot in black and white, mostly. And the black and white is shot on a Blackmagic 4K. It's completely the normal picture and everything you expect, 24 frames a second. And it relies much more on the slow cinema style of things. And then once you get back into the past, into memories and flashbacks, it's all still photography. I think Brek and Matt have seen drafts of it, but I don't think Charlie or Will has. But it's not quite just a single still image. It's sort of strung together. Sometimes it is just a single image. But the idea was to sort of shoot something Chris Marker like, and then I was like, I'm being way too redundant here. I need to do something different with it. And so it sort of became, it's not quite stop motion, it's not quite stills, it's somewhere in between. Almost every scene is edited with sort of a pace where you're going, like every single shot is an individual image that was taken on a different camera, a stills camera, and then strung together. And then in editing, I decided if this one's 2 frames, and the next one's got to be 3, and then that next one's got to be 2, and then the next one's got to be 5 to hit the right pace. So it was a lot. That's pretty much what the film is. So it's different in the fact that it's partially it's partially what we expect, and it's partially stills that are turned into looking like motion.
Cool. I just wanted to address that just in case
Yeah.
anybody was curious, because there's like I said, little nuggets about it, and I don't want people left out and not knowing. And by the way, all these films will hopefully be in the description of this once the 2 of them come out, because Back and Bonnie have not yet. But like Matt said, hopefully Back's released in the next couple of weeks. Speaking of, we all went to Texas A&M. Let's be honest, Texas A&M is not a very art-focused university. So I'm just curious what y'all's experience was working in an environment that doesn't necessarily puts like a focus on filmmaking and like that community. Obviously, Swamp, I think, was a good, like it's a club based on filmmaking. It's a cool community of that, but like A&M itself and College Station is a very not artistic town, in my opinion. But, like, I'm just curious, like, how you guys worked in that situation and kind of like worked with it, you know?
I feel like it's both. There's a both ups and downs when it comes to that. The downs, of course, is you don't meet quite as many people when it comes to like artistic appreciation, or and more specifically filmmaking. However, because there's not as many people who are, I guess, interested in filmmaking or are compared to the entire population of Texas A&M, it is the community itself is way more tight knit. I feel like if you know a group of people, and it eventually trickles down, and eventually you just know everybody who is interested in filmmaking within like a certain area of Texas A&M, you know, and you befriend a lot of them, and you grow, like, again, like I said, a more tight knit group who you can film with or create art together with for multiple projects instead of just one in particular.
Yeah, I agree with that. It's like it's easy to say it's not art focused, but there are people everywhere. Once you find them, it's like it's very tight knit. I had tons of great experiences with professors and stuff. And I think being outside of the main area is good. I mean, it can be bad because you can end up in sort of like, you're not going to have access to all the resources or all the training or all the expertise. But at the same time, there's that element of if you're in a major hub where movies are made all the time, you're more likely to fall in with a crowd, with a group, with a style that's the same for everyone. You're going to learn traits. Whereas here, we might be doing stuff wrong, but that might actually be right in the long run. I like that it sort of breeds that individuality. Not that it always ends to like individuality doesn't always go to good places when it comes to art, but it often sometimes it can. That being away from the training and that rigidity of sort of the structure of bigger cities with more film people, it leads to new ideas and new visions that are outside of what you would normally be producing.
Yeah, to kind of piggyback off of what both Brek and Nate say, you do definitely find your niche when you go to a school like this. I mean, my parents obviously were not going to pay for film school, as no a lot of people's parents aren't, which fair, because it's like I think it's like the number one major that nobody like that has like the least success rate, which which is understandable. So you really just have to go and find, like, again, like with Swamp, it's essentially perfect because you have people who are extremely passionate about what they do and are willing to help people, not only to just get experience with something, but also to be part of this film community and just to have people's visions come true. If it's something that you seem like, oh, I can help this person out, then people want to go do that. And I mean, there is some stuff at A&M that's good. I'm sure Charlie can talk all about the visualization school. But while I was here, along with doing Swamp, which, again, very grateful for, and I met a lot of like-minded people here with a lot of the same passion. And it's stuff, I honestly feel like I've done stuff at A&M that I probably would not have done if I went to somewhere like UT or Rice, which has like better film programs. Beautifully Terrible Productions would definitely not have happened at UT. And I feel like that really helped me grow as a filmmaker, and as just kind of like with editing and writing, it just kind of really has my own style. But in terms of other stuff, I mean, I worked with an internship at Mace Business School editing their Instagram content in the form of short form videos. I worked with 12th Man Productions and 12th Man Films. So there's definitely stuff that you can do at A&M, even outside of Swamp, that can help you like put your name out there and help you come up with your own style and figure out kind of how the business works. There is definitely a lot of resources you could still use. You just have to be a little bit more clever about it.
Yeah, there's a demand for video everywhere. So, I mean, there's always someone. And not only will there always be someone, but there'll always be people willing to help. And I think that was a great point. That even though it's smaller, you might not have access to resources, the help is almost so much more because everyone really has that passion.
Mm-hmm. I mean, look at like... Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Charlie.
No. I mean, I was just going to say, I feel like I don't have much to add to it because I joined Swamp so late. I was in like another film organization, but it died within like a semester or two because of COVID or something or another. And sorry, I can't speak to the filmmaking side of Texas A&M other than the film major is kind of not necessarily a joke, but like
we don't even have a film major. It's a film
film minor. That's what I meant. Film minor. There's no film major, and the film minor is just kind of like it's film studies.
Just get a comm minor at that point if you're gonna do it.
Don't get a comm minor. Don't get anything. Don't get a comm minor.
I had a comm minor.
I quite like my film minor because I did get to study film. I feel like it gave me a more expansive knowledge than than before I came into it. But it's quite sad that it's so small, and eventually I think halfway through my time as a film minor, it even got like merged with performance studies, and then speaking on the art side, I ended up majoring in visualization, but I minored in art. And there's definitely a similar community there, but it's definitely shrinking because, again, halfway through my time as an art minor, they not got rid of the art minor, but they stopped accepting art minors entirely because the art department is so like understaffed, which just makes me really sad. And I feel like it kind of embodies A&M's views towards the creatives in general, I think, which sucks.
Yeah, as a fellow art minor myself, there isn't a lot of funding for the arts, but it looks like it's somewhat changing from what we've seen, because I know A&M is making a concerted effort to put more money towards the art, and it's definitely a process. But speaking of processes, what's y'all's favorite part of the filmmaking process? Look at that segue. I'm so good at my job.
You can't really have one, in my opinion. You gotta really just dig the whole thing, honestly.
But like, you have to have like a favorite part of it, and like, come on.
Okay, harping off of that, I do have one.
Oh, okay.
Editing, by far. That's how I got into it, and it's still, even though it's very, 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 very time consuming, I, for some reason, have the most fun when it comes to sitting down for hours upon hours and just trying to get the right tempo, the right pacing, and especially when it comes together at the end. It's so cathartic. There's nothing like that really when it comes to the rest of the filmmaking process, because I feel like editing it's at a point where that's when the film comes together, you know.
Yeah.
I agree.
I think I'd have to agree with both Brek and Matt in the same sense. Is like, I feel like there's parts that I enjoyed at each, pre, post, and just regular production. But definitely editing is where it all comes together, and it's very nice to be able to see that. But as soon as I'm like, oh, maybe editing, post production's my favorite part, then I'm like, well, production, you've got the probably the worst parts about filming, in my opinion, is making a film is in production when you're shooting, but also you get some of the best parts where you finally get that one idea that's been in your head for forever or whatever, on video. But I think at the end of the day, maybe pre-production, planning everything out, being like, oh, this is how I see this, and this is where I want to shoot this at, and calling locations and whatnot is really exciting to me as well. So in a sense, I agree with Matt of I feel like you can't have a favorite, but then also maybe they're all my favorite depending on the day.
Or we all hate all of them on
you-
the day.
Yeah.
Yeah, Charlie, you said what I said, but in a very less pretentious way. So thank you.
Okay.
I did not mean to come off as like that, but
No, I don't think you came off as pretentious.
okay, well, thank you. But I can say specifically for Bagback, my favorite time working on Bagback was definitely the party scene, because it was just everybody coming together. It was the time I felt like I was the most confident directing something, in the terms of I know exactly what I'm doing. I've planned this out very well, and it was really nice seeing everybody, who all volunteers, by the way. None of these people are getting paid, just coming together and being a part of something.
You paid us some pizza.
I did pay all in pizza and beer.
Was everybody in the call during there at the party shoot?
I was, yeah.
I don't think
No,
yeah,
Nathaniel was there.
Yeah, you
all of
were.
us
You
were
were.
there.
Yeah.
I
That's
think
right.
I paid
That was
Actually,
maybe.
I did not know
One
that.
of the time.
Oh yeah, you did.
Really
pay for
passed
pizza.
out the end of
That
that
is
shoot.
right. Thank you, Nate.
I want to say that was a grueling shoot, but I had a fun time.
It was
Yeah.
so fun. Yeah. But if I had to choose, I would maybe also say the editing process, just because I do love editing, and Brek does make a great point. That is where the film really comes together. But I've a lot of times, amazing times shooting with people, and again, writing a script to me is also very cathartic. Sometimes it feels like exercise, where you don't always like it when you're, on the treadmill, but when you're off and you're like, damn, I just did that, it feels really, really nice.
Yeah. I think maybe I can't say editing is my favorite, just because the one time I've had to edit, when I was editing Ken, I was on a 3-day crunch time. We finished the last shoot on a Thursday night, and then I had to turn it in Sunday night. And so the stress of that might have gotten to me just a tiny bit, but it was a lot of fun.
If I can say one thing about Kin, the 3-day crunch time to edit, it doesn't show.
It does not.
Yeah. I think it does in the middle portion of the film, but I appreciate that nonetheless.
We'll all see those issues though that like no one else will see.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I appreciate
Yeah.
that. Thanks, guys.
That's why rough cuts are the worst when watching him. Like, because you went through that whole process. You go to a point and you're like, wow, this is not good. And then you show it to other people and they're like, wow, this is actually good. And I'm like, whoa, what?
Yeah, I there was a rough cut before one y'all saw for Bonnie that had no sound, nothing. It was just images. Oh boy.
I did not see that one.
I might have cried after seeing that one. I was like, crap, this is not going well. But I mean,
Yeah.
it's not really a rough cut since there's no sound.
I remember when I was editing the skateboarding montages one time, because at the time I did not have a score and I didn't necessarily know what order I wanted it in, so I just kind of threw it together and then I'm like, all right, we'll see how this looks, and then I just played it, and I think I just like put my hands on my head. I was like, fuck, like 50% of this film is bad, and then I showed it to other people. They're like, this is fine. I'm like, oh, okay, well, all right.
I think I'm gonna have to disagree with some other people here. I hate editing. I hate it.
Okay. Coming off of 30,000 photos. Okay.
No.
Well, that's probably why he hates editing, Brek. Come on.
No.
Yeah, I know. It's a little fun.
I was about to actually say the exact opposite. I've done tons of editing for work and for all sorts of stuff, and I've just always found it sort of a pain. I like to be able to listen to music and talk to people and work through stuff, so I enjoy the writing and the discussing and the directing and that side of things, the production stuff and the pre-production, because I like to talk and work and move, and I don't like the confined space of editing. That being said, most of the time I have to edit, it's on tight crunches, but with Bonnie being as massive of a project as it is, I said, screw it. I'm going to take whatever time I need. So I've worked like 150 hours on the thing, but I've spread it across like 5 weeks, which has actually made it way more enjoyable because I've had that time to set it down. So I have found some love for editing through this process. Like I've just found that there's a pace I need to work at for it, if that makes sense.
Definitely.
I can understand that because there is an inherent difference, as what Charlie was saying, between editing when there comes a deadline versus editing when you have all the time in the world to work on it. Because inherently in the future there is going to be deadlines for stuff when we're editing it, and that can get very, very, very painful.
At that point, we won't be a one-person show doing all of the editing, color grading, and sound effect preliminary work, and that's where the money is. That's where the difference.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I will say the post-production process for Bag Back has taken a lot longer than I initially anticipated.
Yeah. It's going to release late May.
Yeah,
I
did not expect the workload of what it would take, but it's coming along good. So maybe it's all worth it at the end. But no, I agree. The editing and the writing process are probably the most isolating parts, especially if you're just working on something by yourself. Like, I mean, I'm having some people. Brek is helping me edit some scenes, and then Laura is helping me color correct, and then Ben is helping me do Foley work. But when I'm just sequencing, it's just like, by myself. And when I'm writing, with Bag Back at least, it was by myself, whereas I much prefer like talking with other people and planning with other people, so that way it at least feels like two people are on the same track, as opposed to it's just you and you're like, is this even working right now? You know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely. Speaking of Bag Back, I was in it, and you all had the chance to work with me at some point. So how awesome I am as an actor! I'm just kidding. No one cares about that.
Next question.
If I could give a non-facetious answer, Will, I thought your acting was very good in Bag Back.
Thank you.
You're definitely
I won't accept it. I won't accept it because I can't accept. Just kidding. Thank you. I will accept it. That sounds stupid. Okay. That was a joke mostly. Kind of. I like feeding my ego a little bit, but we're gonna move on.
We know.
Yeah, you're welcome.
I was just curious. All of you, to an extent, at least for the people who've made multiple like films, That's not a dig at you, Charlie, but I'm just talking like style
Wow.
relatively like.
Okay.
No, God. Oh my
I'm
gosh.
joking. I'm joking.
Sorry. I'm just saying like the people who have made multiple films kind of have a style in a way, or like at least a film genre you gravitate more to. Is there any types of like genres or films that you'd like to explore making in the future? Something that's kind of off the path in which you're on right now that you think would be really fun to make? No budget, no nothing. Like not like you don't have to worry about budget or anything, but it's something that's in your head that you're like, yeah, I would love to do that at some point.
I'm actually very glad he mentioned this question because I feel like I'm coming to a point where I'm starting to get comfortable with my style of editing and filmmaking that I would love to, if possible, tackle every single genre, like as many genres as possible within the same style and tone as the films that I have made in the past. I think I've done horror, obviously. I've done Nikita is more of I say crime thriller, but also has a lot of comedic elements. And I've done one that's just straight up like a more artsy science fiction. And I would love to do. I think that I would love to do a western. Western is a big one. A low budget western is something that always intrigued me. And how that can be accomplished, because I think inherently westerns were the superhero movies back in like the 60s. They were the blockbusters, the big budget, the ones that get people in the seats. And so having to achieve that even nowadays with something that is considered no budget is extremely difficult. And I like that that challenge is fun to me. I would love to do something more towards the science fiction as well.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I would say. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No. You're good. I was just gonna say I agree with Brek in that science fiction, a western, maybe a western science fiction.
Yeah,
cowboys and aliens.
Well, like Nope.
You know,
like Nope. Yeah.
Yeah, Nope.
Westworld.
Westworld. Yeah.
Westworld.
Toy Story.
Oh, actually, though, there are not enough horror westerns out there. I can only think of one, maybe two at the top of my head that are good.
You called what I was about to say.
Really? Actually?
Yeah. No, I have a list of like out there like movies I want to make, and like 3 are westerns, varying from romance to horror westerns, and then there's a couple like I want to do a pseudo documentary at one point. No one will have seen this film, but there's a film called La Commune about the Paris Commune in the 1800s.
Yeah, no, I've seen that.
Great movie.
I'm joking. I'm sorry.
I knew. I think there's like 100 people have seen it. It's like 5 hours long. It's shot like a news crew was there, and I've always wanted to do something wherever you bring together non-actors and set them in an environment that they begin to emulate real life, and they begin to really not just be the characters, but inhabit the characters, then shoot something based off of that. What that would look like, I don't know, but...
In some regards, it almost reminds me of the horror movie like Mungo. I know I showed you and I showed Will that movie. Yeah. It's a mockumentary that they hired people who weren't, I believe, weren't actors, and they got much more genuine reactions because of that. I really find that intriguing. So
yeah, it's close to that.
Yeah, I think for me, like a dream, like. Which it's not like unachievable, is doing some sort of comedy horror. I think those are just like they always get me. Like one of my favorite movies is probably Cabin in the Woods, which I've already mentioned. And then Ready or Not or Spree or something along those lines. I feel like there's not a whole bunch of like really good comedy horrors that stand the test of time. Or just comedies in general, you know.
Yeah.
I want to make one of those.
Yeah, in terms of genre, I'd really love to do it all. The project I want to work on the next is probably, I don't know if anyone listening to this knows this, but I had a YouTube series called Hackerpunk, and the idea behind it was we wanted to take these extremely... it's a cyberpunk parody series where we make fun of, like, stylistically it's making fun of the Matrix, but it's making fun of just, like, in general, like, Neuromancer and hackers and stuff. And we wanted to treat the filmmaking extremely seriously, to where it looks extremely professional and well lit, and there's a lot of artistic decisions behind every shot, but have it be in service of this just completely stupid plot with these horrible one-liners and this ridiculous, these goofy scenarios to contrast against the more serious tone. And I love working in stuff like that where you have just this like almost like ridiculous premise with this like really serious attention to detail with it, where you're almost asking yourself, why are they even bothering with this? And that's part of the joke in a sense. I really love working with stuff like that. I mean, I would love to work in all genres. I would love to just make a straight horror movie. I'm always going to inject some sort of comedy or humor into my stuff just because that's just who I am. That's what I like doing. But I would really love to play around with like aesthetics. And again, I'm, as everyone here knows, I'm really into those Y2K aesthetics. So I'd really love to play around with that and a couple different genres. And then just, I really love to mess around with like tone and see how much I can get away with while still keeping a same like serious tone. And I really like experimenting in those regards. I think that's really fun and cool.
Oh, if you don't mind, on the topic of like dream movies that we want to do, like if we had the ability to, I feel like the spy genre is highly underutilized. Especially even nowadays. I think the closest that I've gotten to getting a refreshing experience when it comes to the spy movie genre was Tenet. And there's a lot of issues with the movie, don't get me wrong. And I feel like halfway in, the whole spy genre gets lost in translation. And so getting a spy genre with different like subgenres attached to it, like a spy horror or like something along those lines would be really cool. And that like
what's your favorite spy movie?
The Spy Next Door.
A basic answer would be Casino Royale.
Classic.
The OG or the new one?
They're both good. I think I have to go with the new one though, because the new one, I absolutely adore Daniel Craig as an actor.
Yeah.
So, and he acted the shit out of that movie.
Yeah, he did.
He did indeed.
Because that movie inherently was a complete diversion towards the James Bond as like a franchise. Like it was totally different. Like casting somebody who never had the same stature as the past people that hold the 007 title. It was structured completely differently, like, and it worked.
I
Then
have
they went
still
back.
never seen it.
Really?
You need to, man.
The only James Bond movie I have seen is Skyfall. At the same time, though,
I feel like it hits more like watching other Bond movies and then getting to that point. Because my parents like love James Bond movies. That's what they grew up with.
Mm-hmm.
So, especially like the like Tomorrow Never Dies or oh my gosh, brain Goldfinger. Yeah, I think Goldfinger, something like that. Like those movies. We have like DVDs of that scattered around my parents' place. So
Awesome.
Trying to think of a way to segue.
Just go.
I'm not that original.
If I were to make a dream movie, though,
no. Okay, wait. Actually, that's still on the topic, Matt, you can talk.
I was gonna say, going off of what Brek was saying about Lake Mungo, I at some point in my life would love to make a really, really good found footage horror movie. Not like a cheap one like the Grave Encounters, but like a really like
situation.
Yeah, like a very atmospheric one. Just because I'm going to be honest. Most horror movies don't really scare me that much, but a really good found footage horror movie will actually do the trick for me. Like Mungo is probably the only movie that's scared me as an adult, where I was like, I turned off the TV.
What would be your favorite found footage? And you better not say Blair Witch Project.
But it's so fucking good, man. It's so good.
I know,
I love Blair Witch
I
Project.
joke about that to people who love Blair Witch Project.
I love like Mungo. The Last Exorcist is really good until the ending ruins it. And then I've always really liked Cloverfield, even when I was a kid. It's not like a masterpiece. It's kind of stupid, but like in terms of like the actual filmmaking of it, I love how you feel like you are on the ground with everyone, and you feel like there's this like giant threat. And then also when I was a kid, I was a very big fan of the show Lost Tapes on Animal Planet.
Oh my gosh.
If anyone has seen that, I was a very stupid kid, so I thought they were all real. And I did not know that they were fake. And those would scare the shit out of me. And I did rewatch a couple last year. And I mean, obviously they don't hold up amazingly, but there are some scares in there where I'm like, all right, that's still effective. That's still creepy. That's still, you still need to utilize atmosphere, you know?
There's a vampire one I still think about. I hope you know.
Oh God, yeah. Well, there's
What we do in
two.
the shadows?
Both of them are fucking scary.
I'm just kidding.
What we do in the shadows. Oh,
That's
that
kidding.
is a good found footage movie too.
I mean, technically, it's not really found footage. It's like a mockumentary.
Yeah, it's a mockumentary.
Mm-hmm.
It's still very good. Were you gonna mention the movies, Brek, of the found footage? You mentioned.
I was gonna say Cloverfield. That has to be my go-to purely out of fun. I absolutely adore that movie. I have a fun time watching it every time. Like I watch it maybe like once every 1 or 2 years.
Nice.
Is Chronicle?
It's really fun.
Is Chronicle found footage?
Chronicle is found footage, yeah. Chronicle is.
It's a horror movie though, like a horror.
Yeah, in terms of found footage, Chronicle would probably be my favorite. I really love that movie a lot. I completely forgot about that.
I haven't seen it. I just know it's got Dane DeHaan, who I love that guy, and I was like, I think that's a found footage film.
Yeah, it's Josh Trank's only movie that I like, I believe. He did the Fan Force stick. Little Fan Force stick.
Oh, Fan Force stick.
And then he did Capone.
Oh yeah. Oh, we don't talk about Capone.
No, guys, if you don't like it, you just don't get it.
Oh no! I'm so sorry. He made Big Fan. Oh, actually, Big Fan is good.
Oh, he made that?
Yeah.
Nice. That's the one with Patton Oswalt, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I've heard that was pretty good.
I'll be honest.
I think of a different movie. Never mind.
That Fantastic Four movie is one of the best movies, and I suggest everyone watch it at least once in their life.
One of my favorite.
Just
roller coasters.
Like this question I'm about to ask you: if you had to suggest one film for anybody to watch ever, like this is the one film that you suggest they need to watch in their lifetimes. I know it's a hard question, but just choose whatever is like the closest. It doesn't have to be your actual official one. But off the top of your head,
or for anybody, because there is a difference.
For anybody.
Okay.
I really like Norbit.
What about Freddy Got Fingered?
That's also a very good one. But yeah, Norbit's probably my final answer.
Bruh. Oh my gosh.
I don't see why anyone could not like that movie. Real answer, I don't want to just say The Matrix because I feel like that's the most obvious answer for me.
Say it.
No, I feel like, yeah. I try to think there's probably like a better...
Is there a movie that you don't think enough people have seen?
That's probably the better question. Probably Swiss Army Man, honestly.
Interesting.
I think that movie probably will get a little bit more recognition now that Everything Everywhere All at Once is a big hit, but I have always said Swiss Army Man should be more well known. Also, if you want to really get into filmmaking and you want to kind of be inspired by like a very low budget movie and what they can do with it, I would highly recommend everybody watch Brick, which is Rian Johnson's first movie. I think it was shot for like less than $500,000, and it looks great. It really goes to show like what you can do with just like a really good script and a really good idea. You can do so much with so little, and if you just look at the behind the scenes, the way they would like have to get around the changing seasons and the very low budget is really interesting. And I think if you want to get inspired as a filmmaker, definitely watch that.
I think for me, it has to be for everybody. I'm gonna answer from a filmmaking and from a like everybody perspective. Everybody needs to go watch Magnolia from Paul Thomas Anderson. That
Yeah.
movie changed my life when I saw that for the first time.
Yeah.
Like actually, I sat down and like I had a moment of reflection that lasted like 24 hours. It was crazy.
Yeah.
Never
I
had that for a
left.
movie.
I stood up, like people tried to talk to me, and I walked right past them outside, and I just stood outside, like thinking for like 2 hours.
I was like, oh my god, the movie has never affected me that way emotionally before. But for
Magnolia?
yes, by
Mm.
Paul Thomas Anderson.
Mm.
Yeah, I know how much you're not a big fan of PTA, but I'm telling you, oh my god, that movie is so good. 3 hours, you don't feel it. You don't feel 3 hours.
Yeah. Okay.
I like it.
For filmmaking,
Yeah.
I would actually have to go with Following. I forgot it was The Following or Following by Christopher Nolan. So everybody talks about when it comes to low budget filmmaking, about El Mariachi, because that was shot with like $7,000, and he got all of his friends and family to come in, and it was a huge success. And I think it made like 500 times its budget or something crazy like that. Made like $2 million, and that's how it got him on the map. But Following was Christopher Nolan's first film to be featured in theaters, if I'm not mistaken, which was filmed with $1,000 less than El Mariachi. And I feel like not enough people talk about it because Nolan's career has blossomed into movies that are now like $150 to $200 million. So it's an interesting movie just to like watch where large famous filmmaker came from, but some of the stuff that he had to do in order to get that film made in the first place, because there's just stuff like they are only able to shoot in weekends because all the actors and actresses had day jobs during the weekdays, stuff like that. Like all the how they can bypass all these obstacles and still make a film that was actually very, very unique and very smart.
Well, it's in black and white, so
Yeah,
it's a little cringe.
Pretty cringe.
yeah, you're right.
Like
You're right.
literally just film it in color. That's so stupid.
Yeah. You know what? You're right. Mariachi's so much better. It's more colored.
Yeah. Christopher
That'd be
Nolan would be
RGB.
like, "Oh, it's me. I'm gonna make sure no one sits on set. Oh, crikey, we're going backwards in time."
That's a great Christopher Nolan impression.
That's literally how he talks.
Holy cow, is Christopher Nolan in this call right now? Are we talking about
Let's say I think Christopher Nolan just possessed Matt for a second.
Yeah.
Guys, the next Christopher Nolan is probably in this call.
Dude.
Who's it gonna be? It's a race.
Following is back
Definitely
Following, dude.
Nah, it's definitely Craig.
Yeah, Craig.
Yeah, Craig's
yeah.
pretty good right now.
The recorder.
Always watch out for the silent ones.
I think, Will, to answer that question personally, like for me, I thought about it. I'm like, I could recommend this movie or this one. But if I really traced it back to like little teenage preteen Charlie, and like the movie that probably made me like more interested in filmmaking, I haven't seen it in a couple years now, and so I don't even know how well it holds up after 2016, 2017. But it's called Before I Disappear, directed by Sean Christensen. It's basically he had a short film called Curfew, which I think won an Oscar. I think I should know this as a fan. But he turned it into a full length movie, and it really expands on the short film. And so I don't know, it's fun in the way that like I feel like Edgar Wright movies are fun, but it also takes itself pretty seriously, which I quite enjoy. So that would be my recommendation. I think the short film is on YouTube, and I have no idea where to watch the full length film, but I think I'm gonna figure it out because I want to watch it this week now that I've mentioned it.
Nice.
Nice.
I don't want to answer this question.
No, answer it.
I
Okay,
re-
Nathaniel says Ikaru. The end.
No, I actually wouldn't.
Nathaniel says The Matrix because it's his favorite movie.
That's exactly what
Yeah,
I
he
would
said
say.
Joker because that's his favorite movie.
Oh,
They say
yeah,
Freddy
another movie
got
I
fingered.
love.
Freddy got fingered.
I have,
That's his favorite
okay,
movie.
that's one I haven't seen. I might actually like that one.
You
No,
probably
won't.
would, honestly.
Nathaniel would be like, this really deconstructs the normalities of film.
Unironically, everybody say Freddy got fingered, but yeah, Nathaniel.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry, cutting you off, Nathaniel. You can go.
Oh, you're good. You're buying me more time to think. I think everyone's giving good answers. I think taking it from the filmmaking perspective is like a good way to talk about it. Like what got you into it is really important, or like what has stuff to say. I have a hard time because like what interests me is relationship dramas and dramas in general. So there's movies that touch me that I think everyone should see, like Ikaru that Will mentioned. But at the same time, it's like it's not something I think. I don't know. I've been very concerned with where film is going lately, which sounds very pretentious, but it's like that thing of like you can find a movie that touches your emotions, and that's great. But what can film do that hasn't been done yet? And that's been something that's been on my mind, and I feel like more people need to watch more movies that are not always great or not always perfect. At least push the boundaries and not just in sort of a silly like, look, I killed some more people or I showed some more breasts. That's not edgy. It's not different. It does something that is inherently like the jump cut whenever it was first introduced. That's something I've been thinking a lot about. I almost want to say The Other Side of the Wind, Orson Welles, which I don't think anyone has really seen. I think it came out on Netflix. A handful of people have seen it. I probably am just thinking about it because I watched it again yesterday, and so that's probably the only reason I'd say that. But I think it does a lot of things. Even that. Never mind. You know what? I take that answer back. That's a bad answer. That's a film that I like that I don't think people will get anything out of. I would love to say a Godard movie, but everyone would just pick on me for saying a Godard movie because I would just get crapped on because it'd be like, wow, look how pretentious this man is.
Embrace the pretension, Nathaniel.
I sort of want to say that everyone should watch Weekend because I think that movie contains multitudes that haven't been touched yet. I think politics in cinema could take a lot from that. I think eroticism in cinema can take a lot of cues from that. I think a lot of filmmaking can take cues from that. I think a lot of just general discussions. There's a lot contained in that movie. Not perfect. I don't love every part of it. In fact, I find it quite infuriating and boring at times, but at other times it's pure genius. So I sort of want to go with Weekend. I think it was... Oh, see, now every time I say something, I'm like, oh, wait, there's this other good movie. Okay, final answer. Everyone should go see...
Joker.
No, not Joker. No, now you're throwing me off.
Norbit.
Not Norbit.
Norbit.
How you doing?
Everyone should go see Sleep Has Her House by Scott Barley. Sleep Has Her House by Scott Barley would actually be my pick.
Oh, yeah.
I think that's where film is going and should be going. And I think that sort of encapsulates what I'd want to do, what I see stuff interesting. That's sort of my favorite filmmaker right now is Scott Barley, and I think that's where film should be going. So a final answer for real this time is Sleep Has Her House.
There we go. Well, we finally got your answer.
I know.
It's okay. You suggested a lot of other films that people should still watch. So
I know.
good.
I sort of cheated.
Will, what would your answer be?
Ooh, that's hard. Oh. I honestly want to go with the pretentious pick of like the Lighthouse. I love the Lighthouse.
Come on.
That's a
Screw
great
you.
pick. No.
I don't. Yeah, y'all can hate on me, but I think the Lighthouse did a lot that was different.
A lot of people have seen the Lighthouse already. That's why I'm saying that.
Yeah, but I don't think
a lot of film people.
Yeah, a lot of film
I
people.
feel like
Dude
we're
down
only
the
film
street.
people.
Okay,
The Lighthouse had a limited release. It was hard to find, like, to go to theaters. I think it's really interesting that they went with a different, like a non-typical aspect ratio. I think there was plenty of parts of the film that were very, like, I don't know, it was just edited like very cool and different. And I think the acting performances, because I love acting performances, obviously.
Yeah,
I love Willem Dafoe. I love Robert Pattinson.
Are you an actor?
Yes, I am an actor. I'm gonna win an Oscar someday, obviously. Probably with Back. We're gonna take the world by storm. But but I think the acting pulls it up. I think Robert Eggers is like one of the not the best filmmaker right now, but he's definitely one of the most interesting, and definitely if he releases a couple more big films, then you can probably say that he's the best filmmaker working. But I think his first 3 have been so solid and so nice and so like consistent, and he's just good. Like they're all good films, and I don't see him not releasing a good film. I think he just knows what he's doing, and it's really awesome. I think The Lighthouse is the best out of those 3.
After seeing Nope today, I was talking to my friend who I saw it with, and I was trying to remember who the third director was, and like this like trio of 3 new wave like horror thriller type esque directors, because I don't know. Anyways, we brought up Jordan Peele, Ari Aster, and I couldn't remember who the third was. Obviously the third is Robert Eggers. But wow, yeah, because they all had movies coming out this year, and he's incredible. I can't believe I forgot about him.
And they're all 3 like I would say pushing boundaries of like what kind of like we've fallen into when it comes to like just typical filmmaking. That sounds really pretentious. But like I'm gonna be honest, like I think it's like true. I think all of them have like produced films that have like pushed the boundaries, and that's why they're so successful. So it's really fun to see, and I'm really excited because they're all really new in their careers. So it's really interesting to see what they'll do like in 20 years or 30 years time, because they can only get better, get more inspiration, get more funding. Even though that's not necessarily what makes a film better, but like, Robert Eggers already dipped his toes in with like The Northman, so I'm only more curious in what he'll do in the future.
I would like to make a note of that, because it's going off of yours and what Nate said about like how like the perception of film is nowadays, I guess. Because I agree with everything you say about The Northman. However, it lose $100 million or something along that line. So
I was gonna ask, like, I know it bombed, but like, was the general like reaction to it positive? Like, not just from film people. Was it like?
No, it was a beautiful film. It was like an epic that you would see, like you wouldn't see today, and it was so shocking that it bombed.
I actually disagree. Like,
I agree. I would agree. I'm gonna agree with what Brek says. I think on this.
Okay, so here's my thing. A movie like that should not have been made and marketed within the same way it was marketed. It was marketed as something like a Revenant, or maybe like a something more like action and story driven. This was
like a Braveheart almost. Like in my mind, that comes up like a very action, but this is not that type of film. It's a Robert Eggers film,
Yes.
Well, I'm confused.
People who didn't know Robert Eggers at the time, because he did The Witch and he did The Lighthouse, 2 movies distributed independently, and saw a very, very like had a big cult following, I guess. It wasn't like this massive thing. But they each had their own cult following. Now, when a movie like The Northman with like it was released almost as if it was a Viking blockbuster, but it was within the same style and tone as The Lighthouse or The Witch. So inherently, that won't be as successful. Another great example would be Blade Runner 2049.
I would also.
I don't understand how that movie got physical. I'm sorry, I'm going on a rant.
No. I was gonna say another movie that came to my mind was The Green Knight. Like I think it was marketed as something. Okay, I think it was marketed to a mass audience to be like something that like it ended up not being. So people ended up coming in disappointed, even though it's very much like I feel like a film person movie, I guess. So I don't know. That's a stupid. I don't want to get into an argument. We're already running pretty long, but
that's another podcast.
But I think like The Green Knight and like The Northman are kind of in that same vein where it's very artistic. It's very like slow pacey,
I agree with that.
And they're long epics, but they're slow. And I think a lot of people were expecting them to be full of action, full of like crazy things. And I guess The Northman was full of it at some points, but like I think it's not like it's not like going to be like Braveheart or something like that. It's not going to be constant like crazy stuff.
I mean,
you know,
maybe
If it
maybe
makes
my
y'all,
like.
oh, go ahead.
I was just gonna say maybe like my film pretentiousness is showing, but I thought The Northman was filled with all of those things, and it was probably Robert Eggers' like most commercially like marketable film, even though it still had elements of his style. I don't see all the things. I think that it was. I don't know. I feel like it was.
After going through a lot of forums and reading a lot of people's, I would have to disagree. I think
I agree with Charlie was saying that it's like it is his most marketable to a wide
think so
appeal.
too. But
I think it's still so like different than what like not normal people. I hate that, but like what people who aren't like as interested in film as we are, they
yeah,
still think it's a lot more outside of their comfort zone. So it made them. It was like
I guess
I had
people were going in like wanting a superhero but Viking movie, like a Marvel Viking movie, but it wasn't that.
they were expecting a roller coaster, and we don't do that
Yeah.
here.
Actually, though, real story. There was a couple in the theater that I went to. It was just me and just a few other people. They walked out halfway in the movie.
Dang.
Yeah, that makes me so mad. It was wonderful.
I can understand. Like I understand why. I mean, I think it's stupid. I think they should give it a chance, but I can understand why someone would do that because it isn't. There is some parts where it slows and it's like draggy but like it's like kind of nice. I like Robert Eggers' filmmaking in that way, where it's like kind of living in that moment, in that scene. But we've already talked for a long time, and we've gone over our hour mark. So I kind of want to wrap things up. So I'm gonna Sean Evans this hot ones here. So you got that camera right there, that camera right there, that camera right there. All of you, plug your stuff, plug your films you're doing, plug social medias if you want to talk about what you got going on. Let's go.
Okay, so I got a short film, right? And we're not there's no inherent deadline yet. I'm pushing for at least the end of the year that it gets completed, but realistically, it will not come out until 2023 because that's when the film festival circuit. That's when it starts to get real big. So realistically, the film is called Panopticon. It is I would say, horror comedy. Again, going within the same genre place that I've been doing for the past few films, but yeah, it's a. I'm not gonna say too much about it, but I do have an Instagram for that particular project, and I'm assuming it will be linked under this podcast, perhaps. And yeah, that is the current project that's going on, and I'm really excited how that's turning out.
I can go next.
Please.
Yeah, so currently Back still in the post-production phase. Hopefully it'll be, well, not hopefully, it will be out soon. It'll be out soon. But we currently have an Instagram account you can follow called Back, so BAGBAK_film on Instagram and then also on TikTok. I guess I don't think I've explained the plot of Back yet. But so essentially, Back stars Will as Kyle, who is a dopey runner for a front laundromat who has to deliver a bag of money from one person to the other. But he loses that bag of money through a series of very dumb decisions, and it's up to him to race against the clock to get his bag back, one could say.
Get it. Well, I just got it.
I know. So, still doing post-production on that. If you want to check out my channels, I have a channel called Banzer where I do video essays and podcasts and shit posts, essentially. We have another channel called Beautifully Terrible Productions, which is the big skit channel. That's where Hackerpunk I mentioned is on. It's not as active anymore, but I still would like to do some stuff with that in the future, so stay tuned for that. And then I have a couple of shorts that I want to work on. One is going to be the Hackerpunk pilot, which we've already talked about. And then another one, I've talked about it with Brek a tiny bit. I want to make an entire film on my Sony Handycam. And I wanted to have a very laid-back feel. I don't even know what exactly... Like, I don't know all of the details about it yet, but whenever I do, I'll tell Will to link it down below. So yeah.
Nice.
Nathaniel, you want to go?
Yeah.
Sure. Bonnie's going to come out some point this year, probably near September. Probably none of y'all will see it because it will probably be going to festivals, so it'll be locked behind that wall. But it will be completed and out at some point in the future. Hopefully, it'll get to actually be played in festivals. If it doesn't, then I guess it'll be out sooner. Past that, not doing a whole lot. I work in film and do all that stuff, so I'm busy with that. Working on a book right now, a couple books with professors and with on my own, all film studies related. I hope I didn't come across like a pretentious ass in this. I swear I'm not. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's really just Bonnie for me right now, and hopefully another short feature, actually, which is being written in the near future. So, yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, and me. I've got nothing. I'm adjusting to moving to New York, which I just did. So maybe once I get a little bit more plugged into like the film scene here, maybe I'll start working on stuff. But as for right now, I'm gonna continue working in New York. But I mean, you can always watch my short film on my YouTube channel. If you just Google my full name and the words Ken 2022, you should find it. And I look forward to making stuff in the future. I just don't know how far into the future that'll be.
Well, I guess that wraps things up. I hope I get to work with all of y'all in the future in some regard. I had a great time working with all you guys during my time at A&M. Other than that, I guess we can call it a day.
Yeah.
Are we all good with that?
Yeah.
I guess we can wrap this up.
Thank you,
I've
Will.
been your host, William Warncke, and this has been 60 Minutes.